This is the 30 Days to Sell Cars podcast. In this episode, we get into stage 11 of the Automotive Customer Acquisition Formula and tackle the intimidating but quintessential closing stage. We're reviewing the tips and tactics required to deliver every word and silence to create the necessary internal pressure that will lead the prospect to a decision without you having to use any external closing gimmicks. Trust me, you don't want to miss our show. Hi, my name is Sean Casey. Today we are pursuing our journey through the customer acquisition formula with the stage where all your preceding efforts turn into gold, the closing. This stage of the customer acquisition formula is called the closing, but would more appropriately be labeled Objections and Money. I say this because once you have perfected the art of the consulting selling script delivery, you won't need to close using external gimmicks and stratagems because you will have carefully crafted an internal pressure that will slowly but surely work on the prospect from within and lead them to a decision in your favor. Keep in mind at this point, contrary to your current sales process, you have the full force of the preceding 10 stages of the customer acquisition formula working for you. When you are talking to prospects that are originally attracted in your sales funnel by assets that communicate core values and beliefs that they wholeheartedly identify with. 2, you have provided them with a ton of valuable and relevant information throughout the lead nurturing or lead farming stages to position yourself as an expert they can trust. And 3, you are having a conversation with them regarding a problem they believe you to solve on a playing field of their choosing. Trust me, you will have never dealt in your career with prospects so ready to follow your direction, respecting your authority, don't abuse it, and trusting. And like I previously mentioned, if you delivered the consulting selling script without skipping any of the stages, the prospects will be applying on themselves all the required pressure to make a decision. The pain of their current situation will be vivid, and their desired situation as clear as it could be. They will have even taken responsibility for the gap and will be nearly begging you to close it. At this stage, your ability to close the deal rests more on your capacity to shut up than your skills at talking. I can't emphasize this enough. During the final stage of the consulting selling script, once your solution to close the gap and the process to achieve it is laid down clearly, before you mention the price, shut up. Remember, price is contextual and must be anchored to the pain of remaining in the current situation and the pleasure of the desired situation. Price doesn't make sense in isolation. At this step, if you can keep silent, and you must, you will hear the prospect think out loud even if they're not saying a word. You will be able to sense the pressure building up. It will be so uncomfortable that you will want to say something to break the silence and alleviate some of the discomfort. But don't. Stay silent. Provide the price only when they ask for it. When they do, state it simply. Well, the investment for the program and everything you've told me today you really want to fix is just $. Then silence. Do not cave in. You must remain silent. If most closing tactics built for intenders are about saying the right sentence and asking the right questions to squeeze the prospect in a corner where they have no choices but to say yes or fight their way out, closing prospects in the problem and solution awareness stages has very little to do with the price. Every cell in your body and years of dealing with vehicle shoppers at the far right of the awareness spectrum will tell you the opposite. But if you cave in, you will not be able to close the transaction. Just look for one of the following. What's the next step? Okay, well, what's next? Okay, how do we get started? Okay, let's do this. Then respond, awesome. We can get started right now if you want. Then, you guessed it, silence. Again, complete silence. They'll ask, how do we do that? How does payment work? Etc. Then you respond with your process. We can, and then go on and explain your process. This closing method might sound simplistic, but it will be the hardest, yet most powerful closing method you will have ever used in sales. It's extremely hard because the silence will kill you. Trust me, it's so hard not to talk when it's your talking that provided you with great income all these years. But it's so powerful because the silences will be the proof of your expertise and authority at resolving the prospect's problem. Now, here are a few examples. Objection. How much time do I have to decide? Response. Is there something in particular you need to think about that we can discuss right now? Another objection. I just need time to find the money and look over my finances. Or I just don't make decisions on the spot. Or I just need to check with my partner or spouse. And your response? Okay, great. When specifically would you be talking with your partner or spouse? When will you be looking at your finances? When will you be sitting down to think about it? Perfect. So you'll have spoken to your spouse, etc. by noon Eastern tomorrow. Awesome. I just friended you on Facebook. Just reach out to me there and let's get you started on the process by noon tomorrow, and I'll hold the savings for you until then. Here's another objection. It's not a good time. Your response? Do you mind if I ask you a question about that? When will be a good time for you to start putting the things you said are the most important to you into your life? Or how will you know when it's time to start doing and having the things in your life that you just told me were so important to you? Here's another objection. I need some time to think over it. Your response? I get that, and I encourage that. We want this to be a great fit for everyone. Can I ask you this? What haven't we discussed that you still need to think about? Or, that's why I take the time on these calls. I'm here right now to help you make an empowered decision. While you still have me on the phone, what questions or concerns do you still have that are unanswered? Or another objection, I can't afford it. Responses, tell me more about that. Or, okay, so you share with me throughout the call that this is exactly what you need to do to move forward. So tell me, how is it that you're going to afford to continue without it? All right, so how can we make this a reality for you? Now here are your action steps. First, role play with coworkers your script and the closing and practice staying silent before mentioning the price, getting the acknowledgement from the prospect to move forward, and explaining the closing process. 2, record audio or video, your choice, your role play sessions with coworkers and watch them a few times for places where you could improve your delivery. Finally, do a minimum of 30 strategy calls with potential prospects and log in your results in the sales tracking sheets provided in the program. You should be at least at a minimum of 25% of closing, ideally around 40%, and it could be as high as 70% when you're on fire. Now here's a quick recap. Can you see how combining strategic silences and the power of the preceding 10 stages of the customer acquisition formula will help you close more deals with prospects at the problem and solution awareness spectrum and allow you to grab deals away from your competitors all lined up at the far right of the awareness spectrum in the ultra competitive product and most aware stages? Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will be back for more great automotive content to help you build your automotive customer acquisition machine. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify so you don't miss the next episodes. Make sure to also leave me a few comments on the content I shared with you today. I'm curious to get your feedback on how you plan to change your external closing strategies and incorporate internal closing methods. In the next episode, we will get into the last stage of the customer acquisition formula, stage 12, and talk about the value ladder. If you ever wanted to learn how to turn your daily efforts into a flywheel that keeps producing results over and over again with more and more momentum, you're not going to want to miss the next episode. Until then, I wish you a great week. Remember that we only have 30 days to sell cars when the month starts, and we probably have less than that if you look at your calendar right now. So like I love to say, let's sell some cars.